Frank Seravalli. Daily Face-Off, our hockey insider joins us. Hello, Frankie boy. How we doing?
I'm good. I'm offended that you guys say that I wouldn't be able to handle it. I mean, just to be fair, like I do have a lot extra. I feel like I'm well equipped to get through a long winter.
We wouldn't want to subject you to it, but you have to grow up in it. It's not a...
Yeah, you came to Jasper a couple of years ago, and I don't know that you were enthusiastically outside trumpeting the minus 28 weather.
If you're not from
I think that's some suspect hazy memory from your high kicking that you were doing at 4 o'clock in the morning that night.
To say that his memory may be hazy, probably
for sure. Yeah.
Probably bang on. So here we are. We are
humbled.
One game left. Egg on all of our face up here in Canada. We feel shame. And we just hope to make it close on Thursday. What's the vibe as we get ready for this one?
Well, I think the vibe it's been shifting based on what these rosters are looking like. Totally. At one point this morning, I think, everyone collectively that's, rooting for Team USA sees that one of their top defensemen in Charlie McAvoy, who was a physical force on Saturday against Canada, hospitalized with an infection that stemmed from a minor injury, all of a sudden ruled out of the tournament. Then I report in short order that the U.S. has been told by the NHL that they won't be allowed to have an injury replacement. And then after that, Mike Sullivan at his media availability announces that, almost like you can picture it, Quinn Hughes is flying in with a cape to Boston to save the day. One of the best defensemen in the world, Hart Trophy candidate, the day when Team Canada has a chance to really change the game, with Cale Makar being the huge difference maker from Saturday to Thursday, could be leveled out if there's a way that Quinn Hughes can get himself into the lineup on Thursday. That, man, it's like it's been peaks and valleys just today, and we're still 2 days away, 48 plus hours away from this ultimate Game 7.
So walk us through all this, because the Canadians went through something similar with Harley, and he played on Saturday. Then they didn't play him yesterday, but it sounded like he could have played even though they had 6 healthy guys. Why Correct. Are emergency guys, once they're in, all of a sudden, no, now you can play whenever you want? And why is the league going back and forth? Because at first we heard Harley couldn't even go to Montreal. He had to go to Boston. Like, we're just making it up as we go here. Anyone pissed off at this?
Look, I think there was, some facets of the tournament, the other teams in the tournament, that were not happy with the way that the Thomas Harley situation played out. And now I guess what goes around comes around. The U.S. is obviously in a spot with their roster, and they're being afforded the same flexibility that Canada was with Cale Makar's illness. So my understanding of the situation is, and this is, part of what's been reported here. I've been on the air for 2+ hours now, so still trying to do some additional reporting, that Quinn Hughes is on his way here and is ineligible to play and practice with Team USA unless they drop below the threshold. So they've got 12 forwards, they've got 6 defensemen.
Right.
Unless they're under that number, then Quinn Hughes can't play. However, here's the one caveat that I'll throw in that I don't have an answer to, that I just asked the question. What if one of the 3 forwards who is injured for the United States, what happens if one of Matthews or the 2 Tkachuk brothers cannot play on Thursday? Can the U.S. position agnostically add Quinn Hughes so that you could go 11-7? Again, don't know the answer to that, but would be a fascinating development or curveball to this, in that might be a way for Quinn Hughes to play.
I feel like the Tkachuk boys would need to have severed body parts.
Yeah.
Before they will be out on Thursday.
There didn't seem to be a high level of concern around either for Thursday availability.
Well, here's the only thing that I'll add to that. I think Brady was pure precautionary. He could have finished out that game had it meant something and had there been something on the line. I think with Matthew, it's a little different, though. And I did have a pretty significant level of concern because I watched him walk to the bus on Saturday night at Bell Center, and he was not in good shape. And here's the other part of that. You just mentioned that for these guys to sit out, that they would need to have severed limbs. And I would agree. But 12 minutes remain in the third period of a game very much in doubt on Saturday night. No one knows how those last 12 minutes are going to play out. And he took himself out of the game in that environment.
Yeah.
So I had to tell you that it was pretty significant. I believe it's a soft tissue injury, whether it's a groin or hamstring. I don't know and can't tell the difference. But in this case, I do have some level of concern as to whether or not in 5 days' time, something like that can heal up enough to be effective and an impact player. So I think he'll play. I think he'll try and make a run at it. Another wild card is Austin Matthews. There didn't seem to be a lot of question about whether or not he could play on Thursday, but is this connected to the injury that's nagged him all season long with the Toronto Maple Leafs? That would certainly add another layer to that conversation.
I was just with Tkachuk still. I would guess that there would be concern from Florida and Bill Zito. What's the etiquette where for Bill Zito to make a call and say, listen, this is
all fine and good.
This is my guy. We have big plans this year with our little NHL team. I know you've got your tournament, but does that hold any sway? Is that a call that you make if you're an NHL GM? I'm curious.
Well, here's the good part. Bill Zito is the assistant GM of this team, and he's at the tournament.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
So that's a nice part of it, that he has direct knowledge. And I did run into Bill Zito at the game last night, and I said, any concern for Matthew? And he said, none at all. Yeah. So he seems to be comfortable. I'll tell you what is weird, though, is the Boston Bruins issuing the statement this morning about Charlie McAvoy being done for the tournament. Their GM is Don Sweeney, who's the GM of Team Canada, who's issuing an injury report about a Team USA player. That part makes my brain explode, but nonetheless, obviously a ton of information sharing, and we know with millions of dollars on the line for these guys where the true priority lies.
So we talked about it. Like, if the hockey's good, they can tweak this thing and it'll be great. If the hockey sucks, this is a huge waste of everyone's time. In season, for a lot of Canadian fans, never really feels right because of the injuries, because we have seen them really successful in September preseason. In the U.S., it just isn't the case. Football is so huge. You've got college and NFL at that point. Right now, there's nothing. Like, you look around the landscape, they've got a lot of real estate here, this tournament. How does the NHL, its owners and GMs, weigh the benefits of this time of year versus the risks of losing an MVP, a captain, multiple all-stars at this tournament for a stretch run?
I don't think the owners are the appropriate people to ask here. Yeah, of course they hold a ton of sway, and I'm sure they feel certain ways about this, but it's the players who also don't want September, because then to think about it from another perspective, for this tournament's only 90-ish players, but when it comes to if you expanded it, or if you were to take a World Cup and try and do it in September, you're ramping up your training now at a way earlier date, and then you're heading right. So you complete an intense tournament and then you head right into the regular season. I don't think they like the idea of it, and that kind of killed it. It was a non-starter. They didn't like the way that September played out previously, and you're right. This is the ultimate sweet spot on the sports calendar. I mean, think about Saturday night. You had all-star skills for the NBA. There was nothing to compete with.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl is done. College football is done. And pitchers and catchers have just reported to spring training. You've got the entire weekend to yourself. So that's why traditionally they've done the all-star game that weekend, but we know that doesn't produce any meaningful buzz. I think the true recipe for success moving forward with this tournament, it's not going to be obviously Four Nations again, but it's going to be getting some time off from it. You can't go to the well too often. And I've seen people say, oh, the NHL can never go back to the All-Star game again. How could you do that? This was not really designed to be necessarily an All-Star replacement. This was designed to be a appetizer for the 2026 Olympics. This is long overdue. And the fact that we saw the fireworks on Saturday night at Bell Center, it was for a lot of reasons, the politically charged environment, the pride and rivalry of these two countries. But let's not forget the third part of it, which is for a lot of these players, this is 10 years in the making, 11 years in the making. They haven't had a chance to wear their country's jersey in best on best competition, and they've been craving this. They want this. And that part I think was lost on a lot of people who came in with the commentary of, oh, this tournament's not going to mean anything. You're not going to see the intensity out of these players. I never for 1 second, and you guys have had me talk about it. How many times have I said, take Saturday night, February 15th, this is going back a calendar year, and hook it into my veins. And I don't say that to pat myself on the back. I say that because the evidence was overwhelming of what we were going to expect from these players when they have this kind of opportunity to make a team that's so hard to make and to be put on a stage like that.
Yeah, I said it earlier. I give credit. Obviously, picking Montreal was, I mean, what a stroke of genius. I mean, it was just everything that they needed for the most part, for this to be a success has really happened. An exciting game with Canada. The crowd's been into it. Montreal's been alive. I'm guessing Boston's going to be the same. Now you've got these two teams. And the big key is that the players, they're not treating this like an all-star game. That malaise that just kind of sinks that whole event. They decided this mattered and played that way right from the start of game number one. And they some of them saw their dads do it, their favorite players do it. Now they get to do it. I give credit to the players for making it matter. And I was just thinking, we've got kids, and I'm guessing all of our kids have done something once in a while, maybe at a sporting event where they do something silly and the rest of the parent group kind of looks over at you. I was just thinking of old Keith Tkachuk. His boy starts a scrap off the opening draw. Then the other kid does it 2 seconds later. It's like, I think he called them lunatics. Well, they're lunatics. I don't know what to tell you. So, I mean, you're bursting with pride. You're kind of sheepish about it, but kind of hilarious that it would be the Tkachuk boys to be right front and center in it.
Well, here's the other part of this, though, again, that I don't think enough people have sort of drawn the next connection to, but everyone remembers here, at least, him taking on Claude Lemieux in the same building in the 1996 World Cup of Hockey. Do you not think that as this group text was evolving and in the back of the Tkachuk brothers' minds, they know that their dad did it? Do you think there was any like encouraging from Keith? Do you think he said like, hey, go after him from puck drop, be the aggressors and go punch Canada in the face? Like I'm not saying he spurred it on, but his actions, his previous actions, their family history, I think nonetheless spurred it on.
Yeah, these aren't apples that fell out of a tree and got into a taxi and went to the next state. They are right below the tree. Like, this is how Keith played. Go watch the 96 highlights. Like, no one should be surprised how they're playing if you saw the old man play.
And because of that, my phone was blowing up on Saturday. Friends that don't watch hockey, don't like hockey, don't care about hockey, were tuned in from Jump Street and we're going nuts. They were going wild. And so now you have this atmosphere here heading into Thursday that's way more than a hockey game. You've got fireworks, politically charged environment shifted now, country to country, one team playing on home soil, another anthem that might get booed. Will President Trump be in the building? There's a million layers to this now that you're going to have the best, maybe arguably the best hockey audience that's ever been produced in the US.
Yeah.
And, they're going to have an opportunity now to showcase the game. And I would think that there's probably pressure on some of the Canadian players now. Will they do the same thing? Will they, issue an invitation to drop the gloves off puck drop because they know the stage that they've got now and how many people are going to be watching?
This is kind of longer view, but the next version of this will be a World Cup. I imagine we'll have 8 teams because that's a nice number for a tournament. Russia will likely be out of the penalty box by then. There are 7 great hockey nations. How do you determine the 8th, whether it's Switzerland, Germany, Kazakhstan, Latvia, Austria, like
Italy? Great food.
But how do you see them doing that? Is there a smaller tournament in the fall to qualify? Or, I mean, I'm way down the road here, but I've been yearning for this for since the 11 years ago that we saw Sochi, which was the last actual best on best.
Yeah. So by the way, I can't tell you, like, at least 5 people stopped me on the street in Montreal. Hey, Paisan, how come there's no Team Italy? And I'm like, oh, all right. Like, here we go. But I am looking forward to that in Milan. Let's get Team Italy out there. I could be the GM. That said, it's to determine, I'd like to see a qualifying tournament being played in September, kind of like the Olympics before this. Let's get Anze Kopitar and Team Slovenia. Let's get Leon Draisaitl and Team Germany. Let's get Switzerland with Roman Josi and these guys. Let's put all these teams together, and I'd leave 2 qualifying spots open.
Okay.
And like, may the best team emerge and win to then ultimately get pumped by some of these superpowers in the tournament, whatever it might be. I think more competition, again, more conversation. Hey, look at this qualification tournament going on. It can only better suit the game.
What are you hearing, your thoughts, the people that you're kind of amongst there? Jordan Binnington is going to start on Thursday, but his performance has not been great. It's almost been what Canadian fans feared. It's like, on paper, our goalies do not look very good. But you know what? Just don't be awful, and we'll be. Well, it's been kind of awful. I guess I think
that's a bridge too far. Don't you think awful is a bridge too far?
A little bit.
Okay.
I would say there's been bad goals and some great saves, but generally speaking, you'd want more saves overall.
But here's how I would term it: average, very average.
At a best and best tournament, he's average. Yes.
Yeah.
But that's all he was to begin with.
I agree. That's why that's the fear.
Well, but what were you expecting? Like, and anyone
Go
hoping?
to Hill
I
after
think
2
we were
bad
only
games?
expecting that the easy ones, we would hope that he'd be able to step up in this tournament and not let the easy ones in. And there's been a couple iffy.
I look at it from a different perspective. And one is that because he has been average, and that's, if you went into this tournament and you said, just give me average, I think you like that he's met that threshold. 2, turning to Hill, like how different is the expectation? Like, I think we're talking like single digit percentages either direction of being a game changer, another goalie that falls into the average category. And 3, I think Binnington has done his job in the sense that in every single game Canada has played, they've had a chance to win. They had a 1-0 lead on Saturday night. They were down 2-1 heading in, in the late stages of the third period before an empty netter. Think back to the first game. Yeah, was there a blown lead? Should they have salted away a regulation win? Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I asked for Hill.
But how much better is Hill?
I don't know. I like him more, but not significantly more. They're still not top 10 goalies.
That's my point. But now can you... if you were going to bring in Hill, it needed to happen either the second game or at the very least the third. I can't imagine under any circumstance turning to a different guy now, and the panic that sends to the rest of the team, the message that sends, hey, this whole thing needs to get blown up.
Right. And again, like, they don't have a lot of good goalies to choose from when they made the decision. Logan Thompson had a whale of a year, but they didn't make this roster when he was far and away a Vezina candidate, and he is now. Maybe you tweak that and you allow the selection of the team a little later, because I think these rosters would look different. A bunch of these guys.
Or do you say, is Binnington tweak? Did he tweak something? And Hill's
fly Hill. Well, but they got Montembeault. I don't know why the hell did Kemby Mutombo's third string in Canada? Like, what the hell's he done?
Somebody tried to argue
hard backup around the league.
Mutombo should have been in Montreal playing.
Like, what are we doing here? Like,
so let me ask you another question. Okay, let's just say, like, for whatever reason, they made a different decision and picked Thompson off the start.
Yeah.
How much better would you really feel today?
I think you're not talking about a blown lead against Sweden nor a soft game-tying goal against the Americans.
Dude, that's highly speculative.
Well, I mean, the body of work's how many games, Frank? 60 in the NHL? He's been exceptional.
Okay.
He's right there amongst, like, with Hellebuck in goals saved above expected.
I understand.
Canadians have gone to for 30 years and had an elite netminder. This is the first time they haven't.
But we're also kind of 2 shitburger goals away from feeling just fine about Binnington. Is that
totally
fair?
Yeah.
Like maybe you let in one iffy goal in 3 games.
And look, if he's great on Thursday, nobody cares. It's just this is the only Achilles heel of the roster.
I know.
But here's the other part of it, okay? And trust me, I'm not absolving Jordan Binnington at all. I would have started, and I said was very clearly last week, I would have started Aiden Hill from Jump Street in this tournament. That said, if Canada scores more, where are the superstars? You scored one goal with a vaunted Canadian attack that at one point in time you could throw the nuclear option at them and go Crosby, McKinnon, McDavid, and the entire team produced one goal. If they score more than one goal, we're having a different conversation likely about Jordan Binnington today. The mistakes are magnified. Yes, the margin is that thin. Yes, maybe just the difference in a close margin between Hellebuck and Binnington is the difference in this tournament. But you can't sit here for 1 second and pin it all on him. I'm going to the Stars and saying, hey, this is on you. And hey, by the way, did you guys know that our bottom six is allowed to score a goal in this tournament? I mean, these are other parts of it that if you want to focus in and magnify and crucify Jordan Binnington, but by all means, go ahead. But let's talk about some of the real issues.
No, this is a real issue. I'm not blaming it all on it, but it was the area you worried about, and nothing that's happened would stop you from worrying heading into the final.
How many people have talked about Sidney Crosby's 2 crucial turnovers on Saturday?
Yeah, and he's playing through something that we forgot about after the Thursday.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say. All of a sudden, so Thursday, he's unbelievable, and look at this guy, and then all of a sudden the narrative the next couple of days is, but how much can we reasonably expect out of Sidney Crosby? It's one or the other. It can't be both.
I think you're right, and I'm not trying, but I'm interested to get your take on. First of all, I think Quinn Hughes should be allowed to play because it's supposed to be best on best, and I don't give a shit about rules or this or that or the man.
And he was originally named to the tournament in December.
Oh, I think he should be able to play. But Charlie McAvoy's out, and Charlie McAvoy made a huge statement and put him on his ass everyone and every time. Their defense was awesome. If he's out, 2 things. Sounds serious if you're going to the hospital for an infection. That's nothing to just brush past. So hopefully he's going to be just fine. But secondly,
and he is.
I know what Hughes is going to bring, but what McAvoy does and what Hughes does are 2 different things. Is that a benefit or a hindrance? Because if Makar and McKinnon and McDavid have the puck on their stick all the time, is Hughes as good against that as McAvoy was? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't even know what the question is, but it's a different strategy, Hughes versus McAvoy.
It's just a different stylistic fit, right? And I think it is a really fair question to ask because in order for Quinn Hughes to be successful, he really does need to have the puck on his stick a lot and does do a lot of controlling of the game. That said, I think if you have the ability any way possible to get him in the lineup, you're opting for him over, and not nitpicking, but you're opting for him over Jake Sanderson if you can, or maybe if you do go 7 defensemen and 11 forwards, that anytime you can get a difference maker on the ice, I think you take it. But point well made that there's a reason why Jacob Slavin got so much attention on Saturday night. It's because the style of game that he plays is exactly what the U.S. needed. And what you got from Zach Werenski was exactly what the U.S. needed. So there's an element to playing against Team Canada, and John Goyens broke it down beautifully on our show last night. He was showing us the quadrants that the U.S. played in, why they were able to have success in slowing down Canada, and why they made so many opportunities for Canada one and done, because they were able to kill cycles. They were able to kill plays and get the puck out. A lot of it was simple, Rhett. It was like an alley-oop. We got the puck at our goal line. We're just going to flip it out into the neutral zone and run under it and live to see another day. And that was the U.S. being comfortable in that situation against Canada, who has the firepower and opportunities, knowing that Connor Hellebuck's there to make the key save off the rush or whatever it might be that keeps your team in the game.
So, and again, to get right back to the beginning, just to clarify, at this juncture, the only path for Quinn Hughes to play is if there's one more injury beyond McAvoy.
Currently, yes. But my question again is that position agnostic? If you have one of your forwards that cannot play, then can the U.S. draw Hughes in and go 11-7? That's the question that I keep checking my phone to get an answer on and don't have yet. But I think it is certainly of interest to the U.S. And again, I was told 2 hours ago they couldn't make any changes and couldn't bring anyone in. And then this is rapidly evolving and fluid.
Are we overlooking the Matthews thing? Is this an issue, or are we just kind of...
Oh, you mean the injury or his play?
Yeah, it's both.
I mean, hard to overlook the injury. And I think if you're a Leaf fan, this is probably a worst case scenario. Your fear heading into this tournament was, what happens if he gets hurt? What happens if he re-aggravates this injury that's kept him out a significant chunk of our season? Why can't he take the path that Quinn Hughes took, which is, I'm injured. What's most important to me is my team's success, and as tough as it is to bow out, I need the rest, and I'm going to stay home. Now to potentially exit this tournament in worse shape than when you entered for a guy that, means so much to what the Leafs do, I think it would have to be concerning. That said, I think what would be more concerning if I'm Brad Treliving thinking about building my team, think about the way this tournament has played out. Matthews has hit a couple posts, hit a crossbar, has gotten some good looks, but for the most part hasn't dominated. William Nylander didn't do much at all for Sweden. And then you've got Mitch Marner, who had a moment with that overtime, but hasn't produced anything at even strength outside of 3-on-3. So, if I'm looking for if I'm looking for the Leafs and I want to dispel this notion or narrative that in these big moments, my guys don't show up, I don't think we've gotten any closer to dispelling that narrative. But the big caveat to that is we've got one enormous game on Thursday where there's still, chapters left to be written in that story.
It's totally true. This is so wild that there's going to be heroes and goats and all that Friday morning is going to be our show. We know it could be Matthews. It could be Marner. One of them's going to lose and the narrative lives on.
Did you have anything else there?
Wow. I was actually thinking about with Matthews. I'm like, what are the Leafs getting judged on? Playoff success.
Yeah, big games.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
So if I'm Matthews, Friday morning, IR. I am.
Yeah.
Clear up cap. Could they not use that cap space?
If he's out to the playoffs, yeah.
Right? Just say, you go get healthy. Come back when we need you. That's the whole.
Well, there's gonna be a lot. I'm looking at it. It's Theodore, Matthew Tkachuk, Charlie McAvoy, Austin Matt. These are all very important players to their club teams that all of a sudden their statuses are up in the air. Theodore's not going to be short term.
Well, not the way Vegas uses their money. So, coincidentally enough, the back end of this is up. Vegas might have an LTIR candidate again.
What is the vibe on the street down there? Is it as wild as everyone here is talking about it, which is kind of maybe not as expected, because I'll raise my hand. I was one that said, I don't give a shit. I'm not watching this. It'll be boring. The way they've played has been exceptional. Again, everyone's phone blew up on Saturday night. Are you watching this? But what's the vibe in the States, in Boston?
It's unbelievable. I honestly I went out after the game last night, and that was a prelim game that meant nothing. A Monday night, bars are packed. Everyone's wearing gear with American flags on it. And the cool part for me was a lot of 20 to 25-year-olds, a lot of, in that age range where you're looking, if you're the NHL, what's our next generation of fan?
Mm-hmm.
What is the age group that we want to target here? And everyone's up on the news. Everyone understands what all of this means, and they're into it. And this is a passionate hockey market. But again, what's cool is the people that don't watch, don't like it, are now in. And
it's their first best on best, right?
Well, but what I would say is that's actually also a challenge for the NHL. It's one thing to get them in the boat.
Keep them.
It's a lot harder to keep them in there. And that's what I think is going to be the big question is you've hooked them, but now what?
Well, yeah. Calgary plays San Jose on Sunday.
Columbus, Buffalo.
That's going to be tough, right? Now, is this a major punch in the face for the NBA too? I got a feeling that this is huge. You've alluded to it. This has got to be massive for the league. You got all the eyes on it, and the NBA's throwing out an all-star game, which is a joke. All of them are.
Bad one.
Is it a double down for the NHL in this? And how did Gary? I didn't know this about Gary. He's buds with Trump. He added. Well, he got Trump to talk about the tariffs and stuff to create this political turmoil, right? This guy's a genius.
I can just tell you this. Last week, the NHL was very squeamish about being caught in the middle of this political vortex, and it's the best thing that's happened to them. It's a total happy accident, and it's it's turned and by the way, like I've been getting calls all morning. There's like debate and talk behind the scenes. Is President Trump going to be in the building on Thursday?
Wild.
Like,
Why not?
I'm just saying, like, this is going to another level, and all of a sudden he shows up and he starts tweeting about hockey and like there's a lot going on here that could take this to yet another level that we've still got 48 hours plus to figure this all out. There's a lot brewing here.
That's what they should bet. You know, the mayors of the Stanley Cup Finals teams, well, we bet a case of beer, and I got to wear the opposing jersey to city council meeting.
I mean, I think the only problem with that is that you'd have to then have President Trump view Justin Trudeau as an equal. And it's obvious in the tweeting that that's not the case.
Yeah.
I don't think it was worried.
I'm not sure. Well, appreciate you, Frank. We'll let you get to work. I did see your frustration. You got Pindered there. That's what this is every day. You get into a conversation with Pinder, and he'll take you one way, but then it's back the other way. You can't have it both ways. It's a lot of both ways.
It's just like off the opening puck drop. Sometimes you just got to slap him around.
That's right. That's right. Good to talk to you. Be well.
See you guys.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.